It all starts with Sanji, our protagonist, who was transmigrated to a cultivation world. Although he had normal strength and he was popular since he had a beautiful face and people only noticed that. But he was disappointed because his beauty does not give him power. Because of the girls, he did not advance in his cultivation. At first, he was going to take it easy to become strong, but the fate system was activated, destroying dreams. The system gives him the mission to confess to his teacher, and if he was successful, he would get a holy body supreme. But if it failed, it would become a dog, and since the mission was recent, it has a time limit of 10 minutes. Sanji gets angry because that means death since his teacher named Missy was either cold and implacable. One day in the sect, a disciple told him he confessed his love. However, she kicked him out and also broke the root of his cultivation. Then, many men did the same but failed, and as a result, Sanji was the only man in the sect. As he did not move due to lust, he was able to survive. But knowing that he will become a dog, he was very depressed. At that time, the teacher of the sect arrives, seeing him badly, asks what was happening to him. Sanji liked her because of how beautiful she was, but he was afraid to confess, and he answers that he was training her and asks if there is a girl he is interested in. But he did not have because he was not moved by those feelings, as she had already cast 900 disciples. She was happy with Sanji since he had a firm heart, but in that time was running out because of what he was about to confess, and he was realizing she was serious. After explaining everything that has happened, she confesses her love. For that, he was sad and she was disappointed in Sanji since he had feelings towards her. So she plans to throw him out of the sect and break his cultivation route. By only having 2 minutes, he begins to remind her of all the good times he spent with her. When he arrived at the sect, Dao was 3 years old, and when she was training his cultivation, he supported him with a smile. But at 15 years old, his cultivation stopped, making him sad, and I getting hope from him kept supporting him. When she remembered that, she was hesitating to kick him out, but Sanji could be a hindrance in his path. So he jumps off a cliff, and as he falls, he tells her that he will continue to love her in the afterlife. But he was not going to die because he did not want her to see him turn into a dog. But she forgot that he cannot levitate, so sad. Now she was going to die in the shape of a dog. However, I already either by pulling it is possible to catch it. She asks why the need to kill herself, but Sanji replies that it is not for love, but for her. This makes her blush for what he throws it to the ground, and in that, the system tells him that he was successful in the mission for which they were going to give him the supreme sacred body. And I already hear myself tells him that it will expel him in the future, but at that moment, the system begins to wake up. The supreme sacred body fills the protagonist with divine power. She is amazed because a supreme phenomenon is happening and the happy girls come to see it. Sanji releases an enormous power that transforms into a dragon, and it was so big that other sects saw it. But now they were going to kill him because an ancestor told them that the supreme sacred body was a curse. Since when it appears, it will destroy the immortal path and it would cause the end of the cultivators. In the end, the supreme sacred body is integrated and updated to the realm of spiritual transformation. She is surprised that in the second center to that kingdom, and Sanji says that he could do it thanks to the fact that he fell in love. But she does not believe it and wanted him to escape because the loss of that sacred body upset the rival sects. That body absorbs the energy of the world and blocks the path of the cultivators, so now it is a public enemy. I will help you to escape, while she fights with the enemies, but it was too late because the great masters of other powerful sects had already arrived. Then, we meet the great old lady of the Earth sect, the lord of the Windy City, and finally, the master of the Heavenly sect shows up and congratulates the Dao sect for doing appear to a supreme. But she angrily asks them to leave, and Chinglian offered to let Sanji join her. But she is sure that Sanji was not going to leave the Dao sect. He decides to stay, angering Chinglian. Then the other teachers also try to convince Sanji to join their sects with better benefits, but he was not going to let her go because she thinks that she is the only one who can kick Sanji out of the sect. As the main character is not stupid, he discovers that those teachers only want to use him to steal his cultivation in the future, but they try to deny it. However, they don't even know how to lie because they were acting very nervous. Sanji yells that he does not intend to leave the Dao sect for what the angry masters plan to take him by force. The first to fight is the one who wanted to make him his slave, and then the other master attacks. However, Sanji already stood in front of Sanji with his sword. He stops the attacks of the 3 masters, but since they were very strong, he couldn't stand it, so Sanji worried. He supported his teacher with his power as the supreme body was powerful. The teachers couldn't stand his power, but that only made them want him more. Then, they caused an explosion, and he got hurt because she used her body to block the energy of the explosion. The teachers asked Sanji not to continue the fight, but she or he would never allow them to take him away. In that, his companions were going to join the fight, but Sanji was worried. He did not want the sect to be affected, so he plans to give himself to those 3 greedy teachers, and they were already thinking about how to use it. However, I or she tries to convince him not to do it, and the masters to stop her plan to start another fight. But a strange light appears. That meant that someone had awakened the double pupil holy body. That body was more powerful than the supreme holy body, and the direction of that light was from the shouty Sanji's sect. They did not understand what was happening, and I or she was not worried because with that body, the Shu sect will be more powerful. For his part, Soul and very arrogant and says goodbye to everyone. And the 2 teachers worry about being alone because this is not something where she or only the 2 of them can win. So, they nervously try to escape from the Dao sect, but Sanji, noticing it, begins to make fun of them. The teachers, without paying any attention to him, were already about to leave. However, Sanji, wanting to stop Chin Liam, breaks his stocking, making him look sexy. Blushing the protagonist, then she leaves without further ado, promising to leave him dry next time. In that, the system gives him a new mission, which consisted of stealing the underwear of Qinglian. If he succeeds, he will receive a Taoist fruit, but if he fails, his bad luck will increase, causing him many misfortunes, and the time limit was 3 days. The system was perverted, but he was going to do it anyway. Then I already congratulated him on how well he behaved. Sanji, for that reason, expected a reward. However, I was annoyed and wanted to punish him for the confession. But changing the subject, she was worried because now the Dao sect will be the target of powerful enemies. He proposes to go to the Chin Liam sect to learn Taoism, and thus raise the prestige of the Dao sect. I already accepted and planned to send him with some old women to leave him secretly, and a beautiful Sanji disciple excitedly asks who it will be, and smiling, tells him that it is the disciple Iloyan. But the sad one did not expect it to be her, and 2 days later, on the way to the Dao sect, he was with her. He asks if she will be able to awaken a sacred body because she heard that he had the supreme sacred body has awakened. But Sanji, angry, tells him 3 rules so that he can accompany him. Getting angry like this, Alan, the protagonist, was upset with No Young since he always caused problems and he was the one who was paying the piper. In that, she tells him to be careful and let Ram because he is the one who awakened the double pupil's sacred body. He does not hate Sanji because he won him in a contest, and now since he has a sacred body, he will seek revenge. But since both sacred bodies counteract and neutralize each other, he wonders if everything was predestined. Then they mention plates of food, but angry Sanji was not going to forgive them and caused a problem. In the distance, it was Miss He and the one who had sent it together for to mature through that experience. But I was wondering why Sanji got so nervous when he confessed as if his life depended on it. On the other hand, the protagonist arrives at the sect of the earth where all, surprised, already knew who Sanji was, for what the women in love wanted to spend time with him, bothering the men a lot. But the teacher Qinglian arrives, and Sanji asks her to give him some advice to improve his Taoism. She accepts, so she asks her to follow him. And while they walk, the protagonist tells her, she asks why the 2 of them are alone. She didn't bring guests since she's a newbie, and they shouldn't be bothered to concentrate more. Sanji understands, but he had a bad feeling, and when he got to a bedroom, the protagonist knows what was waiting for him. But before he could escape, Qinglian closes the door, and so it fell right into the palm of his hand. Sanji was scared, however, he knows that if he does not take advantage of that opportunity, he will not be able to complete his mission. So when cheating on him, he asks him to take a bath, and Chin Lion, believing him, is going to prepare the bathroom to go in together. She takes off her clothes, making the protagonist nervous, but when he has an opportunity, he steals his underwear and leaves. But Single, realizing, does not think let him go. And Sanji, for his part, receives the reward of the mission, so now he plans to escape from the sect. But Loja arrives, in whom he was escaping because he got into trouble. Sanji gets angry but takes her with him and was a little relieved because he had old women who were going to protect him. However, it is not expected that they were just getting up, and they were still in the 6th Dao. On the other hand, Sanji is reached by the daughter of Qinglian called Guyang, who is a perverse and sadistic woman. But she, with a group of women, were looking for Lojin for having eaten the vermilion fruit that they had planted. As Lojin and Guyan already knew each other, they began to insult each other because they did not get along, thus surprising Sanji, who was not there. He was upset with her because she had stolen her limited edition food and had never paid her. Bolin laughs for that, but he was still going to give the Boyang a severe punishment for having eaten the vermilion fruit. However, Sanji was going to protect his companion, moving to Lojin, so he decides to fight. The two start a fight, but Sanji doesn't think to stop them, so they can experience a real fight. Then they tell us the names of the first stages of cultivation. And as they are classified, the order begins with the refinement of Kai, establishment of the golden core, crystallization foundation, spiritual transformation, nascent soul, god transformation, and tribulation crossroads. As they both seem to be in the golden core, the winner will be decided based on her fighting skills. Guyen congratulates her on her strength, but since she was confident, she begins to behave in a narcissistic way. So they fight to silence the attack, and Angry Guy manages to break her weapon so that she can't counterattack. However, then no longer using two snacks, she turns them into her weapons and then launches them, combining them with an ability like that. Attack was very lost when she flew away. But her Yumbo brother arrives to help her, as he was also in the kingdom of spiritual transformation. Sanji does not think to underestimate him. Then he complains to him for letting the two fight since his sister Loya got hurt. But Sanji says that he is no longer his sister, making him sad, and complains to him for not recognizing her as a sister. These two do not understand why he does not recognize Loya as his sister, since her last name was also San. But they still leave him. Yumbo plans to punish the protagonist for his crime, so Sanji, with no other option, was going to fight. As in his free time he learns skills, he puts one into practice, and the powers, when colliding, they make an explosion. But Yumbo was the most injured because despite being in the same kingdom, Sanji had a sacred body. The protagonist, as he wanted to continue fighting, provokes Yumbo, but then arrives who claims Sanji for having fled. As before, he used a lot of spiritual energy. The protagonist worries because he will not be able to escape. Xinglian asks him to accompany him to continue talking about Taoism, but if he did not cooperate, he was going to force him. But Sanji asks him about Taoism, to which Xinglian answers what comes to mind. He does not want to show his evil personality, since for others he is a strong and wise old woman. As Sanji was angry, he was going to leave, and they wanted to stop him, especially for making the delicious. Yumbo stops him, challenging him to a literary competition because he is confident that he will win. Sanji accepts because, being from planet Earth, he knew how to write poems because he received 9 years of education. Then they take him to a pavilion, and the disciples of the sect of the Earth go, but the women support Sanji. For their part, the sisters had a food competition, and when choosing the theme of the poem, Escogen the wine. As Yumbo was a famous talent, Sanji expects a lot, and so Yumbo begins to recite his poem. At the end, all those of the sect of the Earth praise him, and even Chin Lion thinks that Sanji is going to lose. A cultivator to the world of cultivation composes poetry. It will trigger a vision of heaven and earth. It can even be used in battle, and Yumbo was a talent in that. So Sanji decides to take it seriously. But Xinglian, by getting in, changes the theme of the poem Aiu, which means moon in Chinese, for her teacher in that. The system gives him the mission to compose a poem that impresses. The reward will be 20 points of magical power, but if he fails, they will reduce the speed of thought. However, the protagonist is not scared because now he can show them who is boss, and Jumbo is confident that Sanji will win. Using an ability to recover knowledge of the planet Earth, Jumbo sees many poems that he can use. When choosing one, he begins to recite it, surprising everyone because he did it much faster than Yumbo. As it was good, it triggers the vision of heaven and earth, surprising everyone because he barely recites a line. Then, when reciting with the word I, it causes the manifestation of the moon next to that of the celestial palace. This surprises everyone, Yumbo and even the old Xinglian. She manifested a moon in broad daylight following the manifestation. It becomes so big that she sees it, but she felt a tinge of sadness when she saw it. When she knows it is Angie, she wonders why he is like this. And those of the sect also feel that now men no longer hate him because that poem makes them believe that they will find true love in the future. When they finish, they all congratulate in a good way. He accepts his defeat before such a poem, for what the protagonist receives his 20 points of magical power. Since Chin Lion was also moved, she wants to have it. That's why she yells that she is worthy of being with him or not, and asks him if, even if it's some vez, he liked it. But Sanji replies no because they don't know each other very well, and she wasn't his teacher. However, when he doesn't accept it, he yells that he's sure he likes it because he had stolen his underwear. Sanji tries to explain that he only grabbed it to study it, so she plans to return it to him. But remember that the system took it away, and now Xinglian excitedly plans to become his teacher. Then the two old women who are going to protect Sanji arrive, cheering him up because he can be saved, but for entering another sect, Xinglian is going to punish them. The trusting old ladies use a combo skill, however, a single move gets rid of them, scaring these two because they are finished. She plans to make them her disciples, but I show up her or to help them by force. She has no choice. Everyone from these sects falls in love at first sight of Miao, and they understand why Sanji likes her. Then she asks him to leave his disciple, but Qinglian tells him she says that Sanji stole her underwear. However, I don't believe her, and all the disciples of the sect of the earth have an opinion about that. Sanji is scared since he is dying socially, and she threatens Qinglian with her power if not he leaves him. As the aura was so powerful and oppressive, Qinglian accepts that he cannot beat him, so he decides to retire but warns him that he will take revenge in the future, and Joel already did not care that he just wanted Sanji to be fine. After all that, he left in March and Qinglian so that Sanji remembers it. He takes off a stocking to give it to him. Sanji does not accept it because he is not a pervert. But when he dies socially because of the underwear, no one believes him. In the end, these two are returning to their sect, and they give underwear to Sanji since they think he has a fetish. For his part, they give Lajin a lot of food, but since the main character already wanted to leave that sect, he takes her by force. Then they arrive straight away, and a girl tells the main character that I am waiting for her at the pick or from the shadow of the moon. Sanji thinks it is to spend the night together, and when they arrive, he delights with how beautiful his teacher is. Then he approaches her, and she tells him that in 3 days, the Shou dynasty will hold a beast-killing competition. As it was a great event, many cultivators were going to go, and Sanji asks her if Joran will go too. She says yes because when he woke up, the sacred body of Double Pupil, he became a great disciple of Shouty. As Sanji was representing the sect down, he plans to lose to Joran because he has already beaten him before. But to be sure, Ayao gives him a divine weapon called the Solar Sword, which was forged with the Lunar Sword. Sanji happily accepts but feels bad since she always helps him with everything and does not know how to reward her. In that, the system gives him the mission to share the previously rewarded Taoist fruit with Zhou. If he fulfills it, he will learn the immortal poet's sword technique, but if he fails, he will be hit by lightning. Sanji, in a perverted way, tells him that he will give things blushing to Yo Yao, but he gives him all the Taoist fruit. She asks him how he got it because with his strength, it would be impossible, but he tells her that he won it from Qin Liam Yo. She didn't want to accept it. However, Sanji insists that she can pass the tribulation stage, but she still doesn't accept it. Because if she gives away valuable things like that out of nowhere, they will take advantage of him in the future. However, the protagonist gave it to her as thanks for the solar sword, even though that fruit is less valuable. Miss He is nervous and tells him that he gave it to her so they don't leave the Tao sect ashamed because he considers it weak. Sanji cuts the fruit in half so she doesn't feel bad, and if she still doesn't accept, he was going to continue insisting. So without any other option, she accepts, and the protagonist learns the technique of the sword of the immortal poet. When she eats the fruit, the energy of that fruit begins to collide with her body, and she was able to absorb it with difficulty. For his part, Sanji also eats it, but he had swallowed and absorbed the Taoism fruit without problems, so I was surprised. Even though he has a sacred body, he shouldn't do it so easily and quickly. Sanji is sure to win, but Ayao tells him not to trust him because how Run was stronger. When the protagonist hears it, he wonders if there is someone who supports him but still wanted to defeat him, and he promises not to be trusting. Then Ayao tells him that she was going to go too. Sanji accepts because although it is problematic, he was strong. After 3 days, they go to the competition, but they always stop to eat because then he was a glutton. They kicked him out, hungrier. He went to look for mushrooms, and the protagonist warns him to be careful with demonic beasts. But in that, a demonic beast appears who takes the pig that they were roasting and runs away. So the two go after that beast, and it was about to eat it, but they killed it from the tail to stop it. However, as the beast was hungry, it endures the pain and in one bite ends up eating it. Then Sanji arrives, who catches him with a binding ability, and he begins to take away his strength, as the beast no longer has much strength. She takes a form of Loli and apologizes for having eaten her food. But Sanji thinks that acting cute, and then Yang wanted to eat him for having eaten his roast pig. The Loli, to protect herself, says that she is the reincarnation of the divine beast Vice, and that's why they can't eat it. However, Sanji does not believe him. But in that, the system gives him the mission to subdue the reincarnated vase. If he succeeds, she will get 15 points of magical power, but if he fails, he will turn the boy into a dog. As now the penalty does not affect him, he was not going to take it seriously, and after a while, he starts with the beast mission, but he fails, so he gets sniffed at. He turns into a dog for a day. She doesn't understand what happened to him and Sanji asks him for it where, but he doesn't tell him that it was done by the system. As the art of taming doesn't work, Loli begins to make fun of them, starting to fly nearby. But she calls him for a kick. and Sanji, taking advantage of that, uses the master and servant contract technique. As the energy was very strong, he forced a contract, and now he was going to use bays as a means of transportation. After a while, they continue on their way, and then we see the 9 hidden mountains where the competition will be at the top. He is down-ranking, very arrogant. It is bad to see as weak people participate in the competition. Then, a mysterious spirit that has a body appears in the competition. But How to Run was upset with her because before she forced him to awaken the double pupil sacred body. As he wants to be strong through his own effort, he asks her to leave because he has lived in his body for 3 years. Yes, he was not going to leave there because he likes the smell of his blood energy. Besides, no one else apart from him could see it. Later, some guys make fun of Harem because after getting a sacred body, he became pretentious. This makes him angry, so he kills them by absorbing their blood energy and then giving it to them like that. But in that, other disciples begin to feel afraid of Harem because although it is cute, it is very terrifying. On the other hand, Sanji was using bays as a vehicle, but when it did not land well, they fell near where it was. When the 2 talents with sacred bodies got up, they meet again, astonishing all the cultivators. In that, envoys from the dynasty arrive. They are the ones who inform that the competition was about to start. Then they explain that the competition consists of killing demons and evil beasts so that they do not cause problems. It's a farce because the Sausa dynasty to the cultivators to eradicate beasts for free. On their part, after a speech of the protagonist, he swears to take revenge on Sanji for the defeat earlier, in which the system gives him the mission to defeat a pack of beasts in the beast-slaying competition. If he succeeds, his reward will be a random skill book and 30 power points magical. But if he fails, his tendons and meridians will be broken, and his cultivation level will be reduced. As he was excited for the fight, he starts to provoke Harem to look for him in the competition. Then, he starts the competition, and deep in the Black Forest, the cultivators go fast in search of beasts. On his part, he plans to observe the situation in secret and then catch all the beasts at once. On the other hand, the cultivators encounter a demonic beast with a powerful, intense aura. They still decide to fight, but they did not expect the beast to be in the spiritual transformation stage, so he easily defeats many cultivators. The most fearless Taoist decides to face him. Everyone is happy since he was the former winner of the competition, and they thought that's why he was going to win without difficulty. But nothing could be further from the truth, because the beast launches a surprise attack, sending him flying. Then Sanji arrives, and the growers are excited, bothering the protagonist since he has fans everywhere. At that moment, the beast attacked again, and Sanji excitedly wanted to test the power of the solar sword. As he does not want to take too long, he plans to catch him off guard and finish the battle quickly. After a series of attacks, Angie skins to the beast, for which he, with fear, decides to escape. Later, all the cultivators praise the main character for how strong his daughter was, or for his part, he saw everything from afar. In that, as both Sanji's companions are problematic, they had attracted emanating from demonic beasts, the cultivators. Without fear, they decide to fight. Daughter decides to fight too, killing many demonic beasts. The protagonist is tired of winning everything from a movement, but in that, a tiger appears scavenging in front of Sanji. However, he wanted that prey, so they both jump at the same time to see who wins it. But the tiger manages to dodge them in one jump, and the attacks of the two collide, creating an intense aura. Since Sanji's attack was a little more powerful, he is forced to use the double pupil ability. With that, he manages to stop the protagonist's attack with one hand, and Sanji, when he backs down, is surprised by how strong he is. As Harem wanted a battle to the death, he launches abilities with the intent to kill, and Sanji too. The clashes were so strong that the cultivators are forced to move away so as not to be affected. Then beasts appear to interrupt the fight, but the two defeat them with a single movement. As Harem can convert energy of blood into a variety of weapons, he was attacking with it, but Sanji managed to dodge them. Some wanted to have the fight, however, they were afraid of getting hurt. As Harem could see his weakness with his double pupil, he was cornering him, and Sanji could no longer hold on. So he uses the explosive power of the Supreme Sacred Body and packs of power. He manages to stop him but wonders why Sanji's sacred body is stronger since both had to be equal. From afar, and she says that Sanji was powerful, but they save with his desire to fight, he was not far behind. in that the envoys of the Shou dynasty appear to stop the fight because it was a competition of beasts. So now, these two are going to compete to see who kills more demonic beasts. At the end of the competition, Sanji wins with a difference of 50 beasts, for which he receives the Howrun rewards. For his part, he feels bad for being humiliated because not even with the help of his decision could he beat the protagonist. The system determined that Sanji would give him the reward of 30 points of magical power, and when using the skill book, it randomly summons a rocket launcher. You have an RPG of spiritual energy. In that moment, he swears to take revenge, but yes, she impatiently plans to take revenge on Sanji at night. Then the Shou arrives and who claims him for losing, but Joran begins to insult him and tells him that he does not know how to teach, so Saudi angrily throws him out of the daughter sect. He swears to destroy the world to rebuild it in his own way. At nightfall, Sanji's group was celebrating with cultivators, and the only conscious one was the protagonist. Then he arrives like that, there, who plans to absorb the energy of the supreme sacred body because his smell gives him. She goes crazy. In that moment, the system gives her the mission to defeat the invisible enemy, and if she succeeds, she will receive a poison pill. But if she fails, she will lose an organ randomly. The protagonist is surprised that there is an enemy, and he has not noticed it, which is why he was panicking. However, he went to face it, and with one movement, the slope. The end. So this is the story of it starts with the confession to the beauty master. If you want to watch the rest of the chapters with me, stay connected with this channel. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new manga recaps.